In one of the most memorable speeches in the history of American politics, Senator Edward Kennedy addressed the 1980 Democratic National Convention and the nation, and called on the Democratic Party to reaffirm abiding commitments and to offer new hope for America in the 1980s. Senator Edward Kennedy.
We return at Liberty Conspiracy Audio. It's LG Grande here with you, and you are a conspirator, or hopefully you will be, by joining us at Liberty Conspiracy Audio's online on iTunes or joining our website, libertyconspiracy.com. The audios are free, the website is free, and you can participate for free. It just takes a little mental energy, which unfortunately many people lack nowadays when they're talking about contemporary political and economic issues. Issues of principle. That's why we're here. We're conspiring for freedom, because liberty is no longer in vogue. You know, I went through some of the stories today in a cursory fashion. There's so much going on. We have the dueling banjos of Barack Obama and former Vice President Dick Cheney talking about whether waterboarding is good or bad and whether or not people should be held at Guantanamo Bay or held under U.S. law. We'll talk about that some other time. We've got other stories that are out there. A representative from Florida wants to introduce a wonderful bill to force companies to have to give paid vacation. It's the Paid Vacation Act. That's another one on my video screen here of ugly delights. But, you know, I want to pull back right now, and I want to let somebody else take over the Liberty Conspiracy for a while. I want to make this broadcast X-rated. What do you mean? No, this isn't something that the kids can't listen to. What I mean by X-rated is I want to add a little spice from Citizen X. If you're familiar with our broadcasts or familiar with our website, you know that there is a network, a growing network of people who defend individual liberty with their hearts and their minds. And there's one guy to whom I love to turn to really get some spice, to get some ideas that I haven't thought of, and to look at issues I haven't even seen. He is Glenn Jacobs, the creator of and the man known as Citizen X. It's adventures of citizenx.com. He's here. Glenn, intro over. Welcome. The sound is yours, my friend. How you doing, buddy?
Gard, I'm doing great. I brought my own stack of stuff. This is from like 2 days, and it's 6 inches thick. It's unbelievable. So we can pick from a plethora of, as you call them, ugly delights, things that we want to talk about that won't sit well with anyone interested with liberty.
Okay, hit me, brother. Hit me with your rhythm stick.
Let's start with Sam Dodson. I just got this quote from the Kane newspaper. But Kane District Court Judge Edward J. Burke has ordered Miller, that's Sam, to remain held on $10,000 bail and will not schedule a trial until he gives the Keene police his name. Oh. While the prospect of the defendant's indefinite confinement is distasteful, the court reiterates, however, that the defendant holds the key to his release. Burke wrote in his Burke wrote in his order. Let's strip this of a euphemism, and what the judge is really saying is, look, Sam, do what we tell you, or you're going to sit your butt in jail until we decide it's okay to let you out.
Holy crap.
That's what judges are supposed to do, but this guy's on a power trip, and it's absolutely ridiculous. It's outrageous.
Who would have thought that in our lifetimes, Glenn, after we get done going through school, whether it's public school or private school, we go to college, we would know somebody who would be basically imprisoned by the state for no good reason, for simply trying to exercise the supposed rights to journalism that are protected by the U.S. Constitution. It's incredible to me, this battle of wills. This is like 1984. It's like he's walking into his prison cell every day holding up his fingers and saying, how many fingers am I holding up? How many fingers am I holding up? And once he answers 5, then I'll be free to go.
Yeah, it is absolutely outrageous. All it is a power trip. What they're telling Sam is, you are going to abide by our rules. You are going to do what we say, despite the fact that you have supposed constitutional protections that prohibit us from holding you indefinitely,
Absolutely.
which is supposed to protect all these rights, but we don't have to because the judge says we don't.
Well, you know, Glenn, what's fascinating to me is that here you are elsewhere in the United States geographically, and I'm here in the granite state of New Hampshire where Sam is being held. There are lots of people in New Hampshire who are turned on to this, and this just shows this network of people who philosophically are tied into this, and you've seen it. You know what's going on, and you're watching this from out there, and you're animated about it. It really shows a lot about your instincts, your heart, and your philosophical outlook. Now, you mentioned this was in the Kane paper. Can you tell us a little bit more about this report and what you thought of it?
Actually, I thought the report was very fair towards Sam. I believe it's the Kane Sentinel. Is that right, Gard?
Yes.
The record there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it portrayed Sam in a really good light. And one of their key points was the fact that thousands of taxpayer dollars had been spent on confining Sam for essentially no reason other than the judge's ego.
Wow. And you know what's amazing?
It was a very, very, very good report from the point of view of libertarians and the liberty perspective.
Well, good for the Kane Sentinel. And it's interesting because the Kane Sentinel, on its editorial page at least, is a fairly left-wing socialist pro-redistribution of wealth type of paper. So this issue, knowing that Sam is not only in favor of free speech, but he's also in favor of holding on to the fruits of one's labor, they might not be as inclined, one could imagine, they might not be as inclined to give him this sort of coverage. And kudos to them. That's fantastic. And if people aren't familiar with what's going on, our friend Sam, who's a Free State Project member and a videographer, he went into a courtroom to try to cover a particular case that was being brought up for a Free State Project member, and when he walked into the courthouse, the actual building, he was told that he couldn't shoot, and before he could really basically do anything, they told him to shut off his camera. They arrested him, they took him away, and he's been held how many weeks there? A month? 5 weeks now?
5 weeks.
Wow. And he's been doing a hunger strike, a hunger protest, where he's only drinking liquids and milk. Sometimes they don't give him sufficient food, and there's a man who's been there for months and hasn't had a trial, and there are some very important principles here that come to mind. You've brought these to mind to me, Glenn, as you mentioned. This is a man who had the right to be a journalist covering what's going on in the government that can imprison us. We've got to be able to see what's going on. There's got to be transparency, but they won't allow it. This is written in the Constitution, in the First Amendment, and this is extremely vexing to see this happen. Also written in the Constitution is the right to this man's speedy trial. Unfortunately, they didn't define specifically what speedy was, did they?
No. I guess 5 weeks doesn't count as speedy. In addition, you have the Fifth Amendment, which protects due process and also prohibits people from being forced to incriminate themselves.
Yes.
So, and that's where we get the right to remain silent. So all of these things have just been completely tossed out the window because a guy in a black robe, which I'm beginning to believe actually causes mental problems. But in any case, because the judge says that you're going to do what I say or else. And it, literally, I mean, this sounds like something out of high school. You are going to stay in detention.
Yeah, you know,
I say otherwise.
That's a great point.
We're not in high school. We're dealing with someone's life here. We're dealing with someone's freedom. And ironically, Gard, the government is supposed to protect our freedom.
Oh man!
But in this case, it shows you how perilous that protection, supposed protection, really is.
And you know, Glenn, he didn't hurt anybody. He wasn't threatening anybody on that theme. There was certainly no reason to have arrested this guy if you're looking at the supposed pretext for government. As you say, government was created to supposedly stop us from aggressing against each other. He's going in to make sure that government isn't aggressing against people, and they nail him. And you know what else gets me about this is...
Gard, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
They don't even go by their own rules. The rule saying that there was supposed to be no filming in the lobby was a handwritten sign that wasn't even signed by the judge. In addition, he doesn't have jurisdiction in the lobby. He only has jurisdiction in the courtroom. They talked about this, Mark and Ian did on Free Talk Live the other night. Another reporter from, I forget where, but he wasn't even a free stater or a libertarian or anything, was very disturbed because he's like, well, if the judge says he has authority over the lobby, then where does his authority end? Does it end at the end of the courthouse? Does it end at the end of the street? Is it at my house?
Oh, boy,
so
oh, boy.
The judge has just completely expanded what power that the state has given him.
Now, Glenn,
his own authority.
Glenn, the argument that someone might give, and we touched on this once in the past on Free Talk Live, and I talked about it once before, but I think it really deserves reiteration with you here with us. Glenn Jacobs is our guest, folks. Adventures of Citizen X is the website, and the subject is Sam Dodson, who has been in prison for over a month in a New Hampshire jail for bringing a camera into a courthouse to try to record the happenings there. This being backed up by a New